I have, once again, several different thoughts going on in my head today, and I'm still trying to get all the words together for a way to explain it clearly, and I don't know that I do yet, but I'll do my best here because there's layers to this. First of all, there's the intentions of why someone says what they say and why they do what they do. Intentions don't justify the means, but sometimes you will find common ground with someone of like, oh, we have the same intention, we have the same desired outcome, we just disagree on how we get there. And so there's one piece of finding common ground with people on the intentions of what you are looking for. And then you can respectfully and strongly disagree on the method or modes of those things or agree. But there's a first layer of intention of why someone believes what they believe, do what they do, fight for what they fight for. Someone's intention. Then there is this layer of how someone portrays themselves. So someone could be a complete hypocrite. In other words, they portray themselves as having these intentions, but it's a lie. It's a facade. And that's a whole other thing to work through of, is this person portraying themselves honestly, or is it an act? So you go from this intention, here's their intentions, here's who they are, and then here's how they portray themselves. Now life would be a lot simpler and easier if there wasn't hypocrisy, there wasn't a fake portrayal of who they are, that who you are in private, you are also in public. That would be very helpful for all of us if we didn't try to pretend to be someone that we're not. So, intentions, portrayal. Then there's this layer of how you understand somebody. So, assuming that this person is not fake, that their portrayal of themselves is accurate, you can understand why they do what they do, why they believe what they believe, why they act the way that they act, why they hate what they hate, why they love what they love, etc. But understanding doesn't mean approval. Understanding doesn't mean that you're okay with what they do. It just means you understand it. You can be compassionate and understand someone's situation and why they do what they do, and still strongly disagree and be like, yeah, that doesn't make it right though. All because I understand why you're doing what you're doing and why you believe what you believe doesn't mean that I have to agree with that. I can understand it, but I don't have to agree with it. So someone's intention, how they're portrayed, how we understand them, but something a little more nuanced, and really the thing I want to talk about is perception, how we perceive someone to be. See, we could perceive someone incorrectly, think we understand them, but it's because this person has been such a poor communicator or whatever that we're perceiving them incorrectly. We don't actually understand their intentions. We just have a perception that we do, but they haven't communicated well. That's one part. Or maybe they're very clear cut. There's no hypocrisy. Their intentions are clear. It's equal to their portrayal, so we understand what they're we right. All of that's but our perception is still off because maybe we're processing the information incorrectly. They're saying something, but we're processing it wrongly. So then that's on us because we're not processing it correctly. We're not understanding it right, and so we misperceive who they are. All right, so there's two different ways you could perceive someone, right? You could perceive them um, correctly, or you could perceive them incorrectly because of how they portray themselves. You could perceive them incorrectly because of how you process the information. But there's a third thing, and that is you could perceive someone incorrectly because of a third party telling you what to think about that person. That third party could lie about that person. That third party could take that person out of context. And this bothers me the most. And what I mean by that is this. It's one thing if, and I'll use really strong language for this, it's one thing if you hate me because you misunderstand me. Because maybe I haven't been clear enough, so your perception of me is off, and it's my fault, and you hate me for it. That's on me. If you hate me, and once again I'm using strong language to make the point, if you hate me, but it's not because of how I've communicated, it's because of how you've processed what I've communicated. So I've said what I've said clearly, my actions back up what I'm saying, but you perceive it as something that it isn't. That's on you. That's not on me. That's on you. But if you hate me because someone else has mischaracterized me, has lied about me, has called me something that I'm not, and you hate me for that, that's on that third party, but it seems a lot harder for there to be accountability for that. I guess what I'm getting at is there's going to be all kinds of disagreements, and there should be. It's right. It's good for there to be disagreements. However, the answer, I think, to all of this, to understand someone's intentions, to understand where someone is coming from, and to communicate agreement and disagreement on those things, to have clear perceptions of where people are at and where they're coming from, you've got to communicate. And all of us have got to be way more careful on how we use our tongue. I got to be more careful how I use my tongue. The Bible describes the tongue as being incredibly, incredibly dangerous, and it is. The Bible talks about not bearing false witness against your neighbor. You can't just throw words out there and insults to people and labels on people without doing proper research, without talking to that person yourself, without actually seeing who they are, without having dialogue. So let's all be more careful with our mouths. We live in misinformation age times 1,000. We need to learn discernment. These are just some thoughts that are on my mind today. I don't know if this is helpful to anyone or to anybody, but let's be careful with our words. Words matter. It affects people's lives. It affects your life. And when you disagree with someone, which we all do, make sure you understand what you're disagreeing with. And make sure that while you're doing that, that you are loving God, you're honoring God in that, and that you're loving your neighbor in that as well. Just some thoughts. Let me know if that was helpful.